Welcome to the Coin Club, a podcast brought to you by the Seven House Coins, Currency, Bullion, where we discuss everything related to numismatics. I'm glad to have you along with me for my journey and excited to share with you the very best of numismatics.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of the Coin Club podcast. Apologies to all of you who were in contact with me over the last couple of weeks. I decided to go on a little vacation over to Spain and decided to shut off all social media. I guess you could say it was a little reset for me, and what a nice reset it was. I visited a place called Alicante, Spain, which I've been before. It's really a lovely place to go. A quick ride over the Atlantic with a ton to do when you arrive. The weather was in the high 70s and low 80s, and the beer is always ice cold. Great food, perfect beaches, and a city ripe for exploration. They have a handful of coin shops and a couple of secondhand buy and resell shops that have some numismatic and philatelic offerings as well. Got the chance to go into a vintage shop, mostly clothing, and found the owner and his wife were from Argentina. He had a few coins in his cabinets, not many, but he told me to hang tight while he got 2 coin books out that he kept out of the public sight but were still for sale. He had a bunch of nice coins to look through, and I ended up buying a nice Spanish bank token to add to my token collection. He asked about some U.S. coins that he had on hand, and most were common pocket change. He did have a very, very nice 1914D Buffalo nickel, which is in pristine condition. I mean a really, really nice coin. We chatted for a little, the best we could, and he told me when I come back, I need to make his shop one of my first stops so he knows I'm in town. And he's going to bring out his personal collection of 16th and 17th century Spanish coins. Always travel when you can and make new friends along the way. You never know what great new experiences you'll come across. As far as everyone else who wasn't able to get my attention right away the last couple weeks, I'll be answering everyone as fast as I can. All right, on this episode of the Coin Club podcast, there is a good bit of news we need to catch up on. We'll take you south again for the World Coin Spotlight. As always, for my loyal coin roll hunters out there, you'll get some tips and reminders for some roll hunting, and we'll end off the show with an in-depth look at Buffalo nickels, how it came to be, and all the fine details that accompany one of the most loved and iconic coins in the history of the United States. Thank you, friends, for joining me today. Now let's get on with the show. In the world of news, does everyone remember me telling you about the Long Beach Expo? Well, Heritage Auctions had a sale there which drew a lot of attention within our community. Actually, 3 sales all in all. The first one they hosted was the Harry W. Bass Jr. Collection Part 1 auction. This auction reached a whopping $20,459,645. The top seller in this auction was an extremely rare 1821 capped head left half eagle $5 gold coin. Rare is an understatement in the grade that this coin is in. It is a PCGS graded proof 65 cameo. This is so rare that it is only one that is in private hands. The other is in the National Numismatic Collection at the Smithsonian. It sold for a very cool $4,620,000. The next 2 auctions brought in the rest of the dough, bringing in the total for all 3 auctions to a little over $49 million in total. If you're a fan of the hit movie E.T., hold on to your hats. You're going to feel really old with this announcement, as I do. It is celebrating the 40th anniversary of its release, and APMEX is taking part as well. It has a bunch of cool releases for 1-ounce silver bars with the ever so iconic movie poster depiction on it. E.T. himself in silver and gold offering as well. Pretty cool if I do say so myself. For all you listeners in Florida, I hope you made it through Hurricane Ian safe and sound. I heard NGC shut down as they are headquartered down there, and a lot of you were out of power and water for a while. You can always replace personal items, but you can never replace a life. Glad you made it through. My absolute number one favorite coin show to date. You guessed it, the Baltimore Whitman Coin Show is coming up from October 27th to the 29th. You need to head on down to the Baltimore, Maryland Convention Center and take part in this show. It's a little late of a reminder, but if you're close by and you catch the podcast, head on down. If you remember from the last episode, Annex was celebrating their 50th anniversary. Well, so is the Baltimore Whitman Winter Expo. It really is a nice show, and there are a ton of dealers to entertain you for sure. Admission is always free, and check out the website for the official hours. The United States Mint is having its last busy month of the year in October with some new releases. You're going to want to keep yourself on the lookout for the following releases and the dates. October 3rd, you saw the release of the Franklin Pierce Presidential Silver Medal. It was priced at $65 and is 1 troy ounce of 99.9% fine silver. October 21st came and went, but you need to tell all your non-coin collecting friends who love Christmas about this one. They are releasing 2 mint ornaments on this date for your Christmas tree. The 2022 Mighty Minters Ornament and the 2022 United States Mint Ornament. The last release for the month of October will be on the 26th, and it will be the 2022 Limited Edition Silver Proof Set minted at the San Francisco Mint. For all the podcast listeners who enjoy foreign coins, especially my love of the Paris Mint, they are releasing 2 new offerings in October. The Gold and Silver Euro Collection, consisting of 10 Euro silver coins, 50 Euro silver coins, and 250 Euro pure gold coins. This is scheduled for release on October 3rd and the 31st. You'll see the release of their Harry Potter collection with gold and silver euros dedicated to the Harry Potter saga as well. In this episode of the World Coin Spotlight, we're still in South America. I had a bit of a struggle as to what country we would visit next. We continue to head south, and the continent is starting to squeeze in its geographical location. So do we go east or do we go west from Bolivia? Well, we're going to head west. West to the country with a coastline of the South Pacific Ocean that spans a mind-numbing 6,000 kilometers. It is the southernmost country in the world and is closest to Antarctica. Pay attention to the future Coin World Spotlights, as there is one other country that disputes this. However, officially, it is Chile. Its population is around 17.5 million people, and it borders Peru to the north, Bolivia to the northeast, Argentina to the east, and the infamous Drake Passage way, way down in the south. When you think of the country of Chile, you're probably thinking, well, that's it. The long, narrow part of South America on the western side. Wrong you are, my friends. Chile also has control of the Pacific islands of Juan Fernandez, Islas Sales and Gomez, and Easter Island in Oceania, along with a claim of a small 1,250,000 square kilometers of Antarctica. Just a small claim. As far as coins go, the current coinage in the country is the Chilean peso. It has been in existence and circulating since 1975, with its predecessor going from 1817 to 1960. Those years were deemed as the first peso. Its value was that of an 8 Spanish colonial real. Because France was another world power in the early days of the first peso, it was valued up against the French 5 francs. In 1885, a gold standard was adopted for the currency, and this was suspended in 1932. The value of the first peso fell to extremely low levels. In 1960, the first peso was replaced by the escudo. Early denominations of coins from 1817 to 1851 were issued in quarter, half, 1 and 2 reals, and 1 peso. Gold coins were for 1, 2, 4, and 8 escudos. In the year 1835, there was a copper half and 1 centavo coin, and from 1851 to 1853, there was a copper half and 1 centavo, silver half and 1 decimo, 20 and 50 centavos, and 1 peso, along with a 5 and 10 gold peso. Throughout the early years of coinage in the country, they introduced many types of different coins. 1 peso gold coins, half 1 and 2 centavos copper nickel coins, 2.5 centavos in copper, and 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100 peso gold coins. In 1927, they introduced silver 2 and 5 peso coins, and silver finally disappeared in 1933 with the introduction of the 1 peso copper nickel coin. 1942 saw the release of the copper 20 and 50 centavos, as well as the 1 peso, and the very last of the first peso coins introduced came between the years 1954 and 1959, which were the 1, 5, and 10 peso coins minted on a planchet of aluminum. That was a lot just for the introduction of the first peso. So if you want to get more involved in collecting Chilean coins, I suggest that you start researching all that there is to offer. There is a vast amount of coinage that Chile introduced throughout their existence, and it's something, quite honestly, could take up a lifetime to perfect a collection. To give you a current perspective of how much the dollar ranks to the peso, it's currently $1 US to about 900 in Chile. 900 in Chile. We'll leave that one in there for you. 920 Chilean peso. Now that doesn't give you an accurate look at things because you really need to know how much things cost in the country. For cost comparison, it's about 1,000 Chilean pesos to buy a bottle of Coke or Pepsi right now. Unlike the last country we visited, Chile keeps all coin production in-house. Since 1743, actually. They are minted at Casa de Moneda de Chile in Santiago. The coin we're going to feature on today's episode is a very simple yet elegant coin. In fact, one I'm going to be adding to my collection at some point. It is the 1926 Chilean 1 peso coin. On the obverse of the coin, it has an Indian on the front, which takes up most of the coin's face from the middle to the right, and on the left of the obverse, the word Chile is inscribed with the date below. The obverse of the coin is stunning for me to some reason. However, the reverse of the coin is equally fantastic in its simplicity yet grand design. In the very center of the coin is a star that is nestled between 2 wreaths. A 1 sits at the center of the top peso below the star and the mint mark below the wreath. A fantastic coin in my opinion. It is actually a silver coin, and to be honest, the rest of the details are very elusive to me. I researched on all my favorite websites and even listings on eBay, and I still can't find anything out about the coin. Numista has a photo of it, and that's about it. A really cool coin that I would like to have, and if you have any more information on it, I would love to hear from you, so please reach out. Okay, all you coin roll hunting junkies out there. The State Quarter release was one of the more popular releases in recent history. There were books that were being specially made to collect these. There was a rush at the banks to get them, and quite honestly, they're not something that are worth a ton of money unless you collect them in top population condition or are hunting for error coins. They are out there to be found, though. Still, let's take that back a little. I don't want you to think if you're collecting state quarters out of pocket change or regular circulation that your collection is no less important than anyone else's. You collect what you want, and as long as you're happy with what you have, that's all that matters. In fact, on this segment of the roll hunting, we're going to give you a couple of additional things to look for when hunting through those rolls or even a collection you have stowed away. Now let's get on with it. This is quite frankly only a partial listing of the error coins in the State Quarter collection. Maybe I'll make this a multi-parter for the podcast. Who knows? One of the more popular statehood quarter errors is the 2004 Denver minted Wisconsin quarter. You'll want to turn it over to the reverse so you can take a look at the ear of the corn. The error will be an extra leaf. There are 2 varieties here to be on the lookout for. One is an extra low leaf and one is an extra high leaf. It's pretty self-explanatory. One is pointing up, the other is pointing down. Number 2 is the 2005 Philadelphia minted Minnesota double die quarter. Again, check out the reverse on this one. It features an extra tree top that is next to the fourth evergreen tree to the right of the state outline. The double die makes it appear like there is an extra tree. Number 3, and one of my personal favorites and easier ones to spot, is the 2005P Kansas State quarter error. No magnification is needed to find this little gem. It is a grease-filled die error on the obverse of the coin. Instead of reading "In God We Trust," it will read "In God We Rust." The T is missing. Some of them are totally missing the T, and others you can see very faintly. I still find one of these from time to time. Number 4 is the 1999 Delaware Philadelphia minted quarter called the Spitting Horse. Turn it over to the reverse, and there is a die crack below the mouth of the horse running down to the word Caesar Rodney. Looks like the horse is spitting a loogie. The last one for this episode is the 2008 Arizona State quarter with an extra cactus leaf on the reverse. You'll be checking for a die crack that makes it appear that there are extra leaves on the cactus. Lots of cool things to be on the lookout for while coin roll hunting your quarters, especially in the state quarter years. Happy hunting, friends. Our main feature of episode 28 is the iconic United States Buffalo nickel. Even if you're not a coin collector, most people know what they are, and for those of us who are, we love them. They are a beloved part of the coin collecting community, and we're going to dive right into all the details associated with this American icon. The Buffalo nickel. Minted from 1913 to 1938, this nickel actually had 3 nicknames: the Buffalo nickel, the Bison nickel, or the Indian head nickel, referring to either the obverse of the coin or the reverse. This nickel story probably actually started way back in 1904 by then-President Teddy Roosevelt's disdain with the lack of artisanship in American coinage. He just didn't think that our coins were up to snuff. They were lacking something of a more artistic design to them, you would say. He put his faith in the hiring of August St. Gaudens and wished that he would redesign all of our coins, although this never came about due to the 1890 Act, which simply stated that any design in coins could be made by mint officials with the go-ahead from the Secretary of the Treasury only after 25 years of circulation, unless they were authorized by an act of Congress. By the end of his presidency in 1909, the Liberty nickel, or V-nickel, had been in circulation for over 25 years, so its time was coming. The director of the mint at this time was Frank Leach. Old Frank started the lead on the change to a new design. He wanted Barber to make new pattern coins for our 5-cent pieces. The pattern coins, for the most part, featured George Washington, believe it or not. The design was leaked to the press, and the top news at the time on the new nickel was that they would be out by the end of the year. Banks were in such a hurry to put their orders in for the anticipation of this new Washington nickel, and to no avail, because it never happened. Leach left office of the mint director on November 1st, 1909, and Barber's pattern coins died with that. Leach's predecessor, Abram Andrew, continued the path to the new nickel. In fact, a little tidbit here, Andrews wasn't impressed with the new Lincoln cent that was just issued in 1909 and wanted a new design for that one as well. He lobbied Congress to replace it with a design made by sculptor James Earl Frazier. Congress didn't bite, and as we all know, the Lincoln cent continued on its trajectory. As we all know, the Treasury Secretary wields some mighty power over the ongoings of the world of money, and in this case of the Buffalo nickel, that was the same. You see, when you dive into all the details of the stories of how coins came about, there are some fascinating things that you would have never known unless you took a detailed look into their past. Not one person is responsible for a coin coming to fruition. Many are. Even the son of the Treasury Secretary at the time could be said to have had a hand in this. He wrote a letter to his father, and in this letter he stated, A little matter that seems to have been overlooked by all of you is the opportunity to beautify the design of the nickel or 5-cent piece during your administration. And it seems to me that this would be a permanent souvenir of a most attractive sort. As possibly you are aware, it is the only coin, the design of which you can change during your administration, as I believe there is a law to the effect that the designs must not be changed oftener than 25 years. I should think also it might be the coin of which the greatest numbers are in circulation. I'm sure after the letter was written, there was a lot of back and forth between the Treasury Secretary and Andrews, because shortly thereafter, Andrew put it on the masses that the Mint would be soliciting new designs for our nickels. The gentleman who was recommended for the job by Andrew and Roberts in 1911 was none other than James Earl Fraser. Although Fraser was favored to do the job, there was a design out there that featured Abraham Lincoln that was the favorite of Roberts. Although Fraser was favored to do the job, there was a design out there that featured Abraham Lincoln that was the favorite of Roberts, and he was in favor of going forward with it. While all this was going on, Fraser was hard at it with other designs to come. He ended up with the Native American design on one side and the bison on the other. With all the hype of this new design forthcoming, it still took a while for the official approval to go ahead. In January 1912, Fraser got the go-ahead to use the Native American and bison design. The Treasury Secretary eventually wrote the Mint Director and said, "Tell him," meaning Fraser, "that of the 3 sketches which he submitted, we would like to use the sketch of the head of the Indian and the sketch of the buffalo." An interesting tidbit here is in the correspondence from Roberts to Fraser. Roberts stated, "The motto, 'In God We Trust,' is not required upon this coin, and I presume we are agreed that nothing should be upon it that is not further required." Back at the drawing board, Fraser worked hard to complete the models and was finished with them by June of 1912. When he was done with the designing of the prototypes, he brought them to D.C. on July 10th, and the Secretary of the Treasury was thrilled with the design. That's it, right? Heck no. There is never any story here on the podcast without a hitch in regards to anything running through the government, even when it's a design that is not mandated to be run through Congress. Word of the new design was out right after it was given to the Secretary. The Hobbs Manufacturing Company in Worcester, Massachusetts caught wind of this and wanted the coin redesigned because they had a mechanism that would detect counterfeit coins in vending machines, and they didn't think that it was going to pass the sniff test. They gave their recommendations for the redesigns. However, it was not met with great enthusiasm from the sculptor. Rightly so. It was going to weigh the same as the previous nickels, had the same diameter and thickness as well. Back and forth between the Hobbs Company and the Mint went on for the most of the rest of 1912. December 18th of that year, Roberts must have said enough and finally approved Fraser's design, telling him to complete it, and after he would be paid $2,500. Today, that would be worth about $76,500. Not bad money back then, but was it worth all the bickering that went on back and forth? We'll never know. January 7th, 1913, saw the first experimental strikes of the new coin. They struck more easily than the previous nickels, but the Hobbs Company was still complaining after they saw the experimental strikes. Fraser sat down with the company and had some discussions with them on what they wanted, and in the end, he submitted a new design with the changes that the Hobbs Company requested. Do you know what the changes were that satisfied Hobbs? The border of the coin was changed to be round and true, as described by the Philadelphia Mint Superintendent John Landis. Done deal. No. Even after all of this, for God knows what reason, the Hobbs Company was still complaining about the design, even though they requested this redesign in the first place. Time to bring mint engraver Barber into the story. With all this back and forth, he was asked for his opinion. He said that Reith from the Hobbs Company had attended this trial striking and had been given all the time and facilities he was asking for in testing the new pieces, and the mechanic pronounced himself that he was satisfied. A representative from the Hobbs Company lobbed a bomb over the wall and said that Reith had been intimidated by all the work that had already went into making this nickel, and instead of telling everyone exactly what they wanted, he agreed to adapt their anti-counterfeit devices to the new changes. On February 3rd, the Mint was sent a lengthy list of changes by the Hobbs Company, and both Hobbs and Reith, along with the sculptor, were required to go to a conference together on this matter. After the conference, no agreement was made from either parties, and the designer of the coin, Fraser, had really had enough. He sat down and cranked out a 10-page letter to McVeigh about how much of his time had been wasted by the Hobbs Company and that the situation needed to be brought to a close. McVeigh brought everyone together. Hobbs brought letters from the business community and a lawyer, and the Treasury Secretary lawyered up as well. Barber threw his 2 cents in. Hardy har. Well, actually patterned nickels he created with the designs that Hobbs wanted, and the Treasury Secretary made the decision the following day. He pretty much said that the Hobbs anti-counterfeit mechanism wasn't widely used by anyone and that nobody else was complaining about it. His official statement was as follows. It is, of course, true that only the most serious business considerations should stand in the way of the improvement of the coinage, and this particular coin has great claims of its own because of its special quality. If we should stop new coinage, which is always allowed every 25 years for any commercial obstacles less than imperative, we should have to abandon a worthy coinage altogether. This would be a most serious handicap to the art of the nation, for scarcely any form of art is more influential than an artistic coin, where the coin is widely circulated. You will please, therefore, proceed with the coinage of the new nickel. This didn't stop Hobbs. They tried to get the ear of President Taft in his last days of office, and it didn't work. The coin design was going through. The first coins were given out on February 22, 1913, at the groundbreaking ceremonies for the National American Indian Memorial at Fort Wadsworth, Staten Island, New York. 40 of them to be exact. The official circulation release of these coins happened on March 4, 1913. Although the coin is popular today among numismatists and the public, the news wasn't a fan upon its release. They called it an example of what a coin should not be, not pleasing to look at, and the bison should be taken off the reverse. Who would have thought, right? The coin is in circulation, the Hobbs Company drama was put to rest, and the nation is at peace with the new nickel, sort of. Everyone except Barber. Barber started to raise a red flag. The dies used to strike these coins were wearing out 3 times faster than those used to strike the Liberty Head nickel. They couldn't keep up with making new ones. Barber also said that the date and denomination were going to wear off quickly. The changes to the dies were made fast, and legend reading 5 cents was enlarged, and the ground that the bison stood on went from a hill to a flat ground. They grounded the old bison. The new nickels were known as Type 2. It still wasn't a once-and-done deal. There was a change after this to the design. In 1916, the word liberty had more emphasis and was moved. There are a few varieties to be on the lookout for in this series, but we'll cover those in the roll hunting segment coming up. The 1926 S nickel is the low mintage in the series, coming in at a menial $970,000. Throughout its mintage, the problems plaguing the dies wearing out and other items were never solved, so when the 25-year time frame came about, there was no question that this design would be retired and the new Jefferson nickel would be brought to light. Who would have thought that something worth so little today, a measly 5 cents, would have such an interesting history to it? Well, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoy it, and I can't wait to have you along with me on the next episode of the Coin Club Podcast. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Coin Club Podcast. I had a great time with you and look forward to sharing with you on the next episode. Please follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook at the 7 House Coins Currency Bullion and also on Instagram at the Coin Club Podcast. You can also go to my website, www.7houseccb.com, and give me some feedback on this episode or some suggestions on what you would like to see on future episodes. As always, I'm grateful to all of you for your support and look forward to seeing you the next time on the Coin Club Podcast.